Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Circling the Nest, alternatively Squawking the Hawk, Circling
No.
Seattle Sports weekly Seattle Seahawks show. Um, Myself, Charles Hamaker, joined by Jake Parr. Jake, not a lot has happened over the offseason. It is the offseason? Wrong. Over the past week, it is the divisional round. I just watched Jalen Hurts run through a bunch of Rams. Um, very majestical. But there is some offseason discussion to be had. I think the biggest conversation currently over the past few weeks and days has been about the potential candidates for the next offensive coordinator job. We have a list of five candidates who have interviewed, I believe is the terminology here. Byron Leftwich, if you remember, former Steelers quarterback. I think he bounced around, but I remember him as a Steelers quarterback. Who was the Tampa Bay OC, Grant Udinsky, who I believe was in Minnesota, Clint Kubiak, who is in New Orleans, Hank Fraley, who I think is the offensive coordinator coach in Detroit, who just got knocked out yesterday. Sorry to my friend Everett Fitzhugh. And then Thomas Brown, who spent time as the interim head coach for the Chicago Bears. Um, Jake, I guess which of those candidates do you think would be the best fit for not only Seattle and what they have as a roster currently, and obviously that will change by the time that we get to training camp, I'm sure. But also, so much of the Ryan Grubb discussion seemed to be about the philosophical differences, right? Um, who do you of that list makes the most sense? And is there someone who hasn't gotten an interview yet that you'd want to see Seattle reach out to at least because you can say no, teams can say no, like happened with I think Chicago tried to interview McCarthy and then Dallas didn't come to a deal with him,
Mm.
which is fascinating. Um, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Which of those five candidates do you like as the best fit for Seattle, and who would you like to see get interviewed who hasn't been interviewed yet?
Um, I think I got to go with Hank Fraley, the Detroit offensive line coach. Um, and yeah, New Orleans. Ba, ba, ba. No. Da, ba, ba, ha, ba, 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 ba. No, I would, yeah, Detroit offensive line coach Hank Fraley. For one, the offensive line has been, you know, the problem that's been talked about the most. And I think having somebody who to come in to immediately who has had so much success with their offensive line. I mean, Jared Goff has been or was they got him last night. Uh, Excellent this year, but also their running game was brutal, and that was the one thing I think I noticed the most during the first half of when the Seahawks played the Lions back at the start of the season was that they could not stop the run game. Um, and a lot of that comes down to the offensive line. So I think getting the mastermind behind that. I mean, obviously we don't have like the same level of just raw talent on the line, but getting the brains behind it right. I think that's the first step, um, and letting him craft the offensive line that he wants. And I think that because we talked about this last week, the philosophical differences with Grubb
Yeah,
cannot have been as simple as run the ball more. But run the ball more is definitely a part of it because you can't go out there um, and let your quarterback get a franchise record in passing yards simply because you're passing every play. Not to diminish Smith and his accomplishment for setting a new franchise record in passing yards, um, but you know that's really why is because there was such a greater sample size of that. So many more passes just in general. Um, I mean, but I think settling down the line, especially with Gino being, a kind of pocket passer, just relieving some of the pressure on him. And again, this isn't a team that needs to make extreme changes. This is a team that very nearly made it, and it's even now that the playoffs have started, it's very frustrating watching these playoffs and knowing that it's wide open. I mean, the Commanders beat the Lions on Saturday. Um, the Rams getting their teeth knocked out. What's the score there?
It's just 7-0, but Matthew Stafford has almost thrown a pick twice. So
Okay, so there you go, right? I mean, and that's the Rams. That's who went to the big dance instead of us. Um, it's a wide open playoffs. They just barely missed it. I don't think the team needs to make drastic changes. They need to iterate. They need to um, tweak and improve. And I think getting somebody who can lock down the offensive line, I think that's your most glaring weakness. I think you patch that up. I think you win 12, 13 games next year. So I'm putting my hat in for Hank Fraley. Um, that's the goal here. And
that's
hey,
that's where I would have
he
gone.
doesn't have any more responsibilities this year. Well, he
Yeah.
probably does like just wrap up, wind down film room
Oh,
stuff, but
sure.
he doesn't have any more games to manage.
Yeah. No, and I think that's where I would have gone too, is with Fraley, just because of, you talk about running the football, you talk about complementary football is a big thing, right? You're going to have a good defense, like just the Legion of Boom. If you'll remember in those early years, the defense was so good. Russell wasn't the passer that he became those early years.
Hmm.
Um, excuse me. And, with Marshawn, I mean, when you've got a great running back, teams will obviously fill the box for that, and you can become one dimensional. Obviously that team was able to do a lot when they did open up a more balanced offense, passing to my hero, Doug Baldwin. Beans. Um, and UW legend, Jermaine Curse. They were able to play complementary football with Marshawn Lynch on the ground and being able to, do something in the passing game, including tight ends like Zach Miller, not Chicago Bears Zach Miller, other Zach Miller, if you remember it. Um, yeah, you want that complementary football, and there are too many times where Michael Dixon's great. I think what his like average is the fourth best in NFL history right now, which is remarkable. The Seahawks made some graphic about it. I was like, oh, a punter graphic. I thought about scrolling by it, and then I read it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, but he shouldn't be out there that much. It's kind of not the same situation as in Chicago, where Caleb Williams is like, you're not gonna have to punt much this year, and then I think he was one of the top punters in the league. Like,
Well, we saw a
you're
lot of them
putting,
when we played Chicago.
oh Jesus Christ, what a game, the game of all time. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Is like Seattle's defense looked great at times throughout the year, and they've got a lot of talent there. But if you're running them out there and running them ragged because you can't do anything offensively, you can't hold on to the football, you can't sustain drives, it won't matter. Um, so yeah, you have to be able to play complementary football. I imagine that Fraley could help do that. But to your point, you talk about the talent on that line. Seattle will need to address, and we talked about it last week. They'll need to address that interior three.
Hmm.
I'm fine. Like Charles Cross had a good year grade wise. Abraham Lucas, I don't think was ever fully healthy or really got his feet under him throughout the course of the year because of how much time he missed. So I'm like, I'm fine having him out there again at the right tackle position. Uh, but inside, like you need legitimate guys. And I like again, I talked about it last week. I like Olu Oluwatimi. You need a real certified center, uh, getting the ball to. Again, I imagine it'll be Geno Smith. Um, throughout the course of the season, we can't have like you talked about last week. All these like what was it, 3 or 4 snaps going over his head over the span of 2 or 3 games. It just can't
Hmm.
happen. Um, I don't want the like we recorded our Mariners show earlier. Bottom to low tier, bottom of the clearance bin at Walmart, the DVD bin they got in there.
Hmm.
I don't want a guard from that. Like it just won't help you. And you want to play complementary football, having guys shed blocks and get in. If you're trying to run it with Ken Walker, who hopefully is able to stay healthy if he's getting hit that much, right? Like it just starts up front, and you're seeing that kind of with these games. Obviously, with Philly, with how good their offensive line is. Washington's funny. I don't know how they put together. Like I don't know their line that well, but I don't know how they've gotten here. I mean, Detroit obviously got to their where they are. Talk about Fraley with a great offensive line. The Chiefs have been able to sustain a great offensive line. Obviously, like it is evident with all of these teams. Minnesota before they lost to the Rams, they obviously got a good line. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I'd agree with you that on it, obviously, because I just went on a tangent about it.
Yeehaw.
And then
This
we've
is this
got
is we're doing a podcast. This is a show where you go on tangents and talk about things. Yes, that's the point.
uh, no, I have to agree with everyone in the comment section, I thought.
No, no, no. You have to make them mad so that they comment and boost engagement.
Thank you. Uh, um, so we'll go over here into kind of looking at position groups. Again, since it's quiet in the offseason, all we've really got to look at is kind of offseason stuff until we hear more real, tangible news.
Hmm.
Um, Pass rush is interesting because you didn't get too much production from most of your veteran guys. Like Derek Hall took a nice jump. I think there was a post about how Derek Hall had like next to nothing sack wise last season, and he had like 8 or 10 sacks this year, which I did not know. I was like, oh, Derek be balling. Derek with one R. Um, like that was nice to see. Boye Mafe had a solid year. From whatever, yeah,
Yeah.
8 sacks, two forced fumbles for Derek Hall. But like you look at Uchenna Nwosu wasn't able to stay healthy. And even when he came back, I don't remember how much of an impact he did make. I think he had a few good games, but obviously the best ability is availability, all that sort of thing. Yeah,
Hmm.
boy, 6 sacks, a forced fumble. And then Draymond Jones, I know they tried to kind of move him as a linebacker, and he didn't have the biggest year. And he's a kind of a candidate for Seattle who, is going to have to clear up some cap space this offseason, whether it is to bring in people or to, if they want to work out an extension with Gino, you do want to sign Ernest Jones long term, right? So they're going to have to make some space. And Jeremiah Jones is a candidate for that, considering the contract he was given and his lack of performance. Yeah, 4 sacks, one forced fumble this year. Jake, what do you think needs to happen with this pass rush? Because obviously you've got some great talent in the secondary with Witherspoon, with Woolen. Josh Jobe had a good year. He's an RFA. Um, Kobe Bryant had a solid year too. We should talk about secondary maybe next week. But yeah, I mean, there's decisions I'm sure you need to make. Maybe on a Draymond Jones. Do you think about Uchenna Nwosu and his availability issues?
Hmm.
Um, where are you at with this pass rush? What do you think needs to be done this offseason to kind of improve upon it?
I think you stick with. I think Draymond Jones has some more in him. He's only 27. He had a pretty good year last year. I'm actually pretty happy with like uh, the pass rush like squad. I guess in general. Um, I think they were bringing consistent pressure to even the best like QBs and against the best lines like in the game. Boye Mafe was there all the time. I wrote his name a lot when I was talking about defense. And of course, Leonard Williams. Come on. You didn't even mention him. Come on. You
Yeah.
snubbed him. You snubbed him. Come
Oh
on.
no.
After he's been snubbed all year, and now here you go. Put some respect on his 11 sacks, all right?
Yeah, that's my fault. Yep.
Um, yeah, Derek Hall's in there. Jaron Reed's in there. I think they have a lot of really good chemistry. I can't think of the specific play or players, but there was an interception um, that the Seahawks came away with. I can see it now where one pass rusher is bringing pressure to the quarterback, forces him all the way up to the far sideline, and he releases the ball. Too late, interception, return for a touchdown, right? And that
You
happened
talking about the
because
Arizona game?
I think so. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
look it
yes,
up.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Kyler Murray. Um,
Yeah, let me look that up.
yeah.
Oh no, a Best Buy ad. God
Oh
damn it.
gosh, that's a disaster.
I should really
Um,
have ad blocker. But I'll let you continue with your thought, and I'll or
Shout,
do you? Is it dependent on this?
no, it's not at all. Knowing the players' names would be great. Shout out to Best Buy for selling me this lovely laptop.
Oh, well, it might surprise you because it's Devon Witherspoon.
Ah,
I mean,
that is a little bit
Tyrese
surprising.
Knight is like close in the vicinity, but it is Devon
Tyrese Knight, I think,
Witherspoon.
is yeah, okay. Tyrese Knight, I think, is going to put it together. By the way, he was always kind of right there. I think he just made like a few mental missteps a couple
Which you can
times.
expect with a rookie, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the raw talent was clearly there. I mean, he's only 24. Let the kid play.
Let the kid play.
Um, I think he's going to be a menace. If not next year, then in 26. Um, and hopefully he's still around in 26. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the pass rush squad, and I'm extremely happy that Leonard Williams got himself his touchdown.
Yeah, and I mean that's obviously the Leonard. I'm sorry. I remember being at that Arizona game and being in the Hawks nest, and that guy's just so fun, man. Whether it's
Hmm.
obviously the play on the field, but I remember Arizona was kind of pinned towards that end zone, and if you've watched I don't know if they ever showed on the games, but he's sitting there, he's doing his celebration, but then he just started waving at people in the crowd, he was like interacting, it was fun, man. Seeing that, I was like, me, no, yeah, no, I don't
28
know.
QB hits last year. What
I
a
think
goat.
it's interesting. Like, I think primarily my wonder with the pass rush is a Draymond Jones because of his deal. Do you try to, restructure that contract to free? Because they have to do. There's some candidates here. Obviously Tyler Lockett's one of them, considering the money he's set to make.
Hmm.
I'm sure he'd be happy to come back on a lower deal. I don't think money is something he's focused on right now, especially as a real estate agent. Um, Rayshawn Jenkins, who, he kind of had that fumble recovery against New York, and then he kind
Hmm.
of disappeared. And Kobe Bryant really came out. Well, he did get injured, but yeah, Kobe Bryant really came out and um, looked great there. So I don't imagine they keep him around. There's a few candidates, and Draymond Jones's name sticks out, but maybe they do find a way to, convert some of that into a signing bonus and, um, affect that cap hit. So that's kind of where my concern was. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Leonard Williams obviously had some great success. We talked about Derek Hall, talked about Boye Mafe. Like, you do have you have established guys like Leonard Williams, but then to see Derek Hall take such a jump as a guy who was not the highest draft pick, and even when he was selected by Seattle out of Auburn,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
he wasn't regarded too highly by some of the reports that I saw. So I don't know. It's
Yeah,
nice to
he was
see.
terrorizing quarterbacks, yeah, all year.
Yeah.
And he's only
And
23.
I'm sure under another year of Mike McDonald's defense, he can improve. Right.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, and even not necessarily pass rush per se, but with Tyrese Knight, I liked him coming out of college. I think it was UTEP. I think it was
Yeah.
UTEP or yeah, uh, Texas El Paso. And I was kind of bummed when they get Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson. I'm like, who are you guys? Um, I knew who Jerome Baker was. I didn't know who Tyrell Dodson was. And then they both end up on different teams, and we ended up getting Knight, and I think they played Ernest Jones more up the middle, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even Ernest Jones is a guy who did well in that. He did well, however, he played linebacker wise, and they need to re-sign him, like we talked about last week. So anyway, we'll move on. Same sort of thing, positional wise. The tight end position is interesting because Noah Fant, um, maybe quieter per se, but Jake was looking at his numbers before he started and still somewhat productive, if I'm
Hmm.
correct.
Yes.
The big one though was AJ Barner, rookie out of Michigan, who really, especially down the stretch, did well receiving wise, and that was always so surprising to me because I remember when he got drafted and I was reading all the scouting reports, and it always kind of had him as a blocking guy. If
Hmm.
you know Michigan football over the last few years, they have run the ball a lot. And so it makes sense for him and how he played there. But I mean, he was solid, he was productive. I think he scored in the last game of the year against the Rams as well.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think in tight end room wise? Because I don't think they have too much they're going to be losing in that regard, at least UFA wise. I think Brady Russell is a as an unrestricted guy, but at the end of the day, I don't think Brady Russell made that much of an impact. I think he was a guy who kind of bounced up and down uh from the practice squad. Yeah, I mean, look, oh well, Pharaoh Brown's a free agent. I don't think you bring him back
Yeah,
and sign
society
him.
has progressed beyond the need for Pharaoh Brown.
Yeah, 30-year-old tight end that didn't catch the ball much. Didn't I mean, I think that was the thing too, is uh, they drafted Barner and they signed Pharaoh Brown. I was like, wow, two blocking tight ends. Like, were getting to
Mhm.
ready to run the football, and then they did not do that. And I was like, wow. So you bring in guys who, well, and that was evident.
Yeah,
Like Pharaoh Brown had a few catches, but it was just
emphasis
like,
on a few, 8 specifically.
yeah, and you paid him $3.2 million last year. Do not, nope. We can move
Hundreds
past
of
that.
thousands of dollars per reception.
Yeah, we can move on from that. Right. So
I
yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the tight end position for Seattle?
I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right. The Barner train for sure. You got to wonder how much of his, we'll say, elevated passing numbers were just because of like the nonstop passing.
Sure.
Is maybe that's why he broke out of the mold a little bit. But I think he's clearly got potential. I mean, 8.2 yards a reception, that'll play, right? Um, on yeah, 30 catches, about 250 yards. I think he's clearly got potential there. I think as kind of your quick, like, oh, nothing else in the progression is working out. Let's get a first down. Hey, AJ, here's the ball. Just kind of on those quick little inside routes. And I love it. I love a receiving tight end. Grew up watching, Texas football. Give it to the big guy, throw it over their heads. Give it to the big guy, let him run through some dudes. That's football to me. So I
Hmm.
hope that you know, even as much as like they gotta run the ball more next year, I hope Barner gets a second look. And Noah Fant, by the way, yeah, he didn't have as many scores as Barner. He only had the one touchdown, but he was consistently there, like in almost every game to be an option. I mean, he put up 500 yards. Um, it wasn't flashy. It wasn't it doesn't show up on the scoreboard, but he was kind of that same deal where it's like, I need a quick first down. Oh, look, there's Noah Fant. He's open. Cool. They forgot about him. Because we have such a strong kind of light out core with your JSN, your DK Metcalf, and your Tyler Lockett, maybe. We'll see what happens there. Um, that a lot of times it's easy for the coverage unit to not forget about the tight end, but not worry about it so much. And so you can get that quick first down that you need to march the ball down the field. Um, I like AJ Barner. I think they start giving him more looks, and I hope that we can see his blocking ability being utilized more next year because he's a great run blocker. Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm just assuming they're going to run the ball more next year because they got to, right? They
Yeah.
surely they can't run the ball less. Be careful what you wish for. DK Metcalf's knees are going to just explode by week 16 next year.
See, you say this, we just got done filming the Mariners show, and you say, surely they couldn't spend less money.
Surely,
What's
surely.
happening now, Jake? Hmm? Hmm?
Um, Donovan Solano actually is going to be that
Ah,
new kick returner.
yeah, there you go. That's some. I don't even. If it really gets that quiet, we'll look at the kick returners. But Jesus, yeah. I mean, you talk about, I think the big word there with those tight ends specifically is their dependability. Like
hmm
they're dependable guys, they're reliable guys, they're reliable targets for
Yeah, I
Gino.
mean,
I think that is important.
yeah, Barnum was
You
there
know.
for every game. He played all 17.
Yeah, I mean, again, what we just talk about with the pass rushers, the best ability is availability. So I was wrong. I was looking at Noah's contract, and he's signed through next year. So yeah, I would just run it back with those two and kind of fill in whatever. Maybe it's a smaller guy. Maybe you do keep Brady Russell around, on obviously a minimum deal, or hell, if you draft somebody in the late rounds, I don't know. Um, yeah, I would ride that out there. I don't think there's too much to look at with the tight end position, but outside of in terms of upgrade or doing anything crazy, I think you'd leave it alone there.
I think you gotta find a halfback, see what happens.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually. Let's talk about that because it was gonna be a shorter show anyway. I'm interested on your thoughts on this
Mhm.
because um I like Kenneth Walker. Um I will say my friend RJ from Emerald City Hockey, it was the draft obviously happens. you know, during hockey season. So it was before a Kraken game. And we're sitting there watching the draft, and the Seahawks pick comes up, and I'm like, okay. And they take Kenneth Walker, and he's got a video of me saying, I go, a running back. Because I was just like, what? Why do we need? Because it was that string of years where there's like they drafted Penny, there was Walker. I was like, I'm so sick of this. I'm so tired.
Hmm.
Um, in the higher rounds. And I like Ken Walker's ability. I think he's got great ability. He's got the home run speed.
Hmm.
He's elusive. Like, I don't think there's any questions about how he plays,
No.
right? Um, but obviously when he got placed on injured reserve towards the end of the year, there was some discussion about him. Um, and he's signed. Oh, fascinating. Okay, his rookie contract ends next year. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, what was I looking at here? I went and I counted how many games he had missed over the course of his season. He only missed like 10 games. I'll go and look back at it.
I
Look
have,
back at it.
yeah.
Um, over the
Looks like
course of his
six. He missed
six.
6 games.
Okay. Over his career.
No, sorry, over last year.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously last year it makes it look worse with six, but I think it was 10 in total for his career. And I'm like, I like the whole narrative, okay, that I had seen with him is that he just can't stay healthy. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, so what? The NFL, when did the NFL start the 17 game season? Was it 21?
Yeah,
Um
recent.
yeah, 2021. So he was in 2022. So over the 3 years he's played in the NFL, he's played 15 games, 15 games, and 12 games. So yeah, 10 games he's missed over, what, the potential of 52 of them.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think
that is
that's as
better than it feels emotionally. You know.
that's that's where I'm getting at, right? Is because the 15 games over the last 2 years, like you miss 2 games a season. I think that's fine.
Hmm.
I think as a professional team, you should be able to handle 2 games without a running back. You should have like a good backup back. You're not going to be Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery
Yeah.
in Detroit, but I mean Zach Charbonnet was more than serviceable last year. I just think this past season for Ken Walker, and his bald head really kind of put like a negative onus on his availability, and I
Hmm.
don't like that. I don't think that like if they look at a contract for him and they say, yeah, we do want to get something done, we want you here. He's not going to get big money. I don't think he should get big money.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to get like a top of the, upper echelon, like Lord Saquon himself and his thighs contract.
Hmm.
Um, but I think he could sign an extension here. And then you look at the running backs on the roster. You've got this Charbonnet, who is solid, who's just a year younger than Ken Walker. So it's not like you're getting much of an age advantage in that regard.
Hmm.
And then it goes down to Kenny McIntosh, who hasn't really shown much because he hasn't gotten much in terms of carries.
And then George
Um,
Halani
and then George Halani out of what, Boise State? Is it
out
Bronco?
of
Blue
somewhere.
Turf?
Who
I
knows?
think I remember. Yeah, Boise State. Yeah, I watched him when Boise State came to UW
Oh,
and didn't
okay.
do too well. Yeah, and Charbonnet, who, yeah, is a free agent in 27. Um, I don't know. Obviously, oh, well, Saquon just scored. Um,
I mean, I'm
I'm,
a Charbonnet enjoyer personally.
oh yeah,
Um,
I don't think there's
he's got,
anything to
yeah.
be.
I mean, he's excellent, like dual threat too. Like even as a receiver.
Yeah,
Um, he got 909 yards last year, combined, receiving and rushing. He was there to pick up for Kenneth Walker whenever his knees went down. And I just love watching him because like K9 is, um, I don't want to say he's small, but he's not tall. Um,
yeah,
Walker and Charbonnet are about the same weight. Like Walker was 211, Charbonnet's 214. Like that's basically the same, but Charbonnet's got like 6 or 7 inches on him, like taller. And I just love watching Charbonnet truck dudes over. I could watch that literally forever. Um, Especially towards the end of that Dolphins game early in the season. I mean, it was the Dolphins, to be fair. You're playing on beginner difficulty there. Um, but he was running all up and down the field all year. Uh, and I love Zach Charbonnet, and I do enjoy watching Kane. I think he turned it on. I think if you're having the discussion on um, the Seahawks that like were expected to do great and then missed due to injury between Walker and Metcalf, I think Metcalf suffered worse this season because of his
Yeah,
injuries
I'd agree with that.
than Walker did. Walker still had a great season, and I look forward to seeing this combo more. I think here's okay. We're gonna go off the deep end, all right? It's the off season. We can say whatever we want. Um, Bulk Charbonnet up, make him massive.
He's
Uh,
already pretty big.
he's already pretty big. Make him bigger.
Okay.
Make him make him the biggest guy on the field,
Okay.
um, and have him be basically a halfback, right? And then have that kind of
Oh,
yeah. See,
okay.
big guy run fast. Um, it's all about mass and energy, okay? Right?
Yeah,
You know, an object in motion is going to stay in motion unless acted on
that's
by an outsized force. And the
correct.
goal here is to make sure that no defenders can be that
So
opposing force.
you're trying to make another Derrick Henry, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Accentuate the difference. I'm saying is like accentuate the difference between Charbonnet and Walker. Um,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you've got kind of the small, fast, elusive guy. You've got the big
Yep.
guy that's going to break your back when he trucks you. And you could have either of those on the field at any time, and it keeps defenses on their toes. Um,
Okay. Okay. I
so
see.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm all about.
I mean, like, if we were to like go into Army's playbook, like, I'm sure
Yes.
there would be so many formations to do that, which would be very fun. Yeah, and like that you talking about the differences and accentuating them is the biggest thing of why, like, one, I already told you my case, like, I disagree with the comments about Walker's availability. Like, I just disagree with that. Um, and it's like, well, he missed 6 games this year or whatever. Sure, yeah,
Hmm.
fine. Like that is like undeniable. But this idea that he's just injury prone, um, is he's not like Joel Embiid levels of missing games. Like I don't think I think that's false. I think that's just little children on Instagram commenting dumb shit. I just
That's
vehemently disagree
Instagram. That
with
sounds like
that.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, but yeah, I think Seattle is so good offensively at their skill positions, whether it is the wide receiver position this year, obviously JSN taking a jump, the potential of what DK Metcalf can do, in the right scenarios when he gets the ball and all that. Tyler Lockett, if we're talking about the current roster, right? Tyler Lockett's still been dependable when he was throwing the ball. We talked about Barner and Fant already. And then the running back position, you've got, a guy who's an elusive back who's got speed, who can hit the home run. And then Zach Charbonnet, who bowls through guys and even has shown bursts here and there. I mean, he had big bursts against the Cardinals on the road,
Hmm.
right?
That 51-yard run, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's primarily what I'm thinking about. Exactly. So, like, I just wouldn't touch it. Like, neither of them, you don't have to make a decision on either of them. And even then, you've got Kenny McIntosh, who has shown some ability in like the 5 carries he's gotten.
Yeah.
So just leave the running back room alone. Like I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
think, yeah. I mean, the Hawks are in a great place. Fundamentally, I think all of the talent is there. It needs to be refined and focused into a spear that can puncture the armor of opposing teams. Um,
I think you
uh,
put it best when you talked about essentially just them retooling. They don't need to make extreme changes.
yeah, Philip of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, conquered Greece, and he did so not by reinventing anything, but by taking the already existing Greek hoplite, their kind of classic Greek soldier with a sword and a spear, and he said, "What if I make the spear really long, so
Oh
that we will
yes.
stab them
Yeah.
first?" He did not reinvent the wheel. He did not anything. He just iterated on the design that already was there. He had that vision, and he conquered Greece, and he gave his son Alexander the tools that he would later use to, topple the Persian Empire. Right? We can topple the Persian Empire of I don't know. I guess the Chiefs, right? would be our Persian
For
Empire.
now, yeah.
That's possible with the Seahawks if we iterate on the design that exists, and I think Mike Macdonald's the mind to do that. And I think he's looking for an offensive coordinator, perhaps like your Fraley, your Hank Fraley, that can come in and do that for your offense because it's the pieces are there, um, and I believe in the Seahawks. Fifth, they missed on the fifth tiebreaker, right? We're gonna keep saying that all off
Yeah.
season. The raw talent is certainly there. I don't think anybody can deny that. As much as we have people who love to, which deny it in the comments, boost engagement.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think that's just the biggest thing and why I'm not like I didn't get on my two knees in the middle of a Walmart when, you know, what was it? That interception bounced off someone's head in the Cardinals game uh, against the Rams. Kyler Murray. I think I tweeted about it, I was like Kyler Murray, like having to actually root for Kyler Murray to lead a game-winning drive is terrible, and I hate it.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, watching those other games where they needed what like 3 games of 5 to go in their way, like
Yeah.
because I understood they put themselves in this position one, but also that they're not far off. Like if they were in a situation like Chicago or New England, where there needs to be a lot for them to be a contender and to fix their situation, then I would, sure, I'd fall to my knees in the middle of a Walmart or like a Tesco or something, but they're not in that position. So then we'll go into here that's something just more commentary wise to finish the show here, Jake. Um, was passing on bringing back Bobby Wagner a mistake. And I'm sure there will be Seahawks fans who are upset about one, the fact that it happened in the first place because of how beloved Sir Wags of Bobby has
Hmm.
become over his time here and how, he probably shouldn't have ever been let go in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, but I say this too because, you could all extend it as well to Jordan Brooks leaving. Um, because I think what was it, the money that they gave Dodson and Baker could have signed what um Brooks signed in Miami.
Hmm.
Um, but also I'm like, do we get to this point with Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight if you don't because the domino effect here, right? Where, Bobby leaves, Brooks leaves, you sign in Baker and Dodson, you draft Knight in a later round,
Hmm.
you lose Baker and Dodson and you bring in Jones. Like, I don't think we get to where those two linebackers are without the domino effect, if you get what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking about while I was getting to this. But I don't know, was letting Bobby Wagner walk a mistake is I guess the general question. And if you want to expand on what I thought about with the domino effect, please do.
I think I'll leave the viewing alternate timelines through your magic powers. I think I'll leave that to you, Bobby. I mean, I people are gonna hate me for sure. And please let me know if you do. Uh, but it's basically fine that they let him go. I mean, certainly this year has been a down year for him. As much as he's in the playoffs, good for him. Uh, go get your bag, Bob's. Um, it's been a down year, like just from the raw numbers, like the counting stats are all down pretty substantially from last year even. Um, and like we were talking about earlier with the pass rush team, like I don't think that he was vitally necessary. I think the Seahawks were fine defensively without him. Um, and as much as he's been, great for the Commanders, he hasn't been like the superstar that he was previously.
Yeah.
And I think the emergence of your Leonard Williams as an incredible defender, especially down the stretch, has kind of like gone well. We missed out, but it's not the end of the world. I don't think you win that 11th game with Bobby Wagner. Um, so I think from a team perspective, it's probably fine. As much as the fans are gonna hate to say this, but that's how sports works sometimes.
Sure. I
Sometimes
think
you just don't need the guy anymore. He's also 34 years old. I don't think he
Yeah,
needed. He would have. Would he have been the oldest player on the team? I think he would have.
that is a good question. I will check
Geno
my
Smith.
spot.
Geno Smith is also 34. So yeah, they would have.
Okay, so tied. Oldest
Mhm.
on the defense. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he would have been a great, like, leadership wise, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Um, old as Jason Myers, 34. Um,
Money Myers. There you go. Yeah, you got a 134-year-old on every team,
there you go.
every
Well,
squad.
trifecta.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he could have been a great leader and help a guy like Tyrese Knight. I'm sure he could help Ernest Jones learn some things. And to do they even get Ernest Jones if Bobby's here? You know, different timelines, Marvels, what
Mhm.
if, whatever have you. Um, but yeah, like you said, I think if you look at it at the team perspective, this I don't think Bobby Wagner moves the needle enough for them to win that next game. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not because of the player he is, it's because their issues weren't strictly defensively, you
Mhm.
know. Is Bobby
Exactly.
Wagner playing left guard for you? I don't think he wants to. Like that's what my thinking is with it, at least. Is I don't think he changed that much. I mean, it's obviously it sucks because you know how beloved he is here, but I don't think like he moves the needle ultimately. Where Mike McDonald and John Schneider are like, damn, we had Bobby Wagner, Super Bowl. Like, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll wrap up this week's episode of Circling the Nest. I will not call it its alternative name. Um, it's not a real alternative name. I just said that
It's
because
not.
of
It's circling the nest for legal reasons because I do believe the alternative name does actually exist as another podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, then yeah, I won't say it again.
uh,
Um,
Circling the Nest is not affiliated with any other podcast beyond other
brought to you
podcasts of
by
the.
Red Bull Winter. Not
Brought
really.
to you by the aluminum All-Star Game Seattle Mariners Pint Cup.
Brought to you by the 3x5 flag All-Star game that I got at TJ Maxx for $4.
Brought to you by the Lunar Lander from the Lego Saturn V set.
Uh, damn it. I don't have any Legos here. All right.
Huge win. I got this one.
Um,
I got the ornithopter right there that you can't see. I got the midi scale Superstar Destroyer. I'm the Lego goat.
I'm sure that'll cause someone to be angry at you.
Don't go
Uh,
brick for brick with me.
you're terrible. All right. Until we see you next week, I'm sure we'll just kind of continue to get offensive coordinator buzz, and
We'll be here
we'll just
yapping.
talk more about positions at that point. So until we see you next week, take care of yourselves, be well, and I hope the Chiefs do not make the championship game. So AFC championship game, that is. Hopefully we don't have to worry about them getting to the Super Bowl. I don't know. That's my opinion. Yeah, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day. Hello there, everybody. Charles Hamaker here with Circling Seattle Sports. I'm joined by Jen Barnes of Rough and Tumble that we happen to be at right now.
Yeah.
Jen, why don't you talk to me a little bit about what we're announcing today, which is our partnership.
I'm so excited about this. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I think all of us here at Rough and Tumble are big fans of what you and your team at Circling Seattle Sports does. And so, I know you know this, but when you came to me with this idea, it just seemed pretty natural. And it's not just me. I think a lot of people in the sports community in Seattle also really respect you and your team. So it's exciting to kind of see these two things melding together, and we're really excited to start implementing some of the things and then hopefully seeing you guys a little bit more often.
Yeah, and so with what Jen says about seeing us more often, we've got a few things in the works, but you'll see watch parties here. We'd like to do a few different of our community drives, which you'll hear about here in a little bit. From now, we've got to make our announcements one at a time. I can't drop everything.
Not everything
Right.
all at once.
But this has been a home for a lot of our team, whether it's myself, our friend, our photographer Liz is behind the camera. Liz is here often, so our team has kind of adopted this place kind of like our own since I saw you at our soft launch. So, it's been great to have that support. And in a lot of ways,
And part of the reason I wanted to do this was the rough and tumble embodies a lot of what Circling Seattle Sports wants to do. Obviously with women's sports, with the storm and the rain, but just being, having the game on, every game on.
Yep.
How much of that, did you see align kind of even before this idea was mentioned when I first met you?
I think it's always felt like that. I mean, you and your team were here on opening night, and you just feel like you're part of the space, so it felt like really natural. And the fact that you actually cover all the sports really makes your group stand out. So you are always covering all the rain games, all the storm games. UW women's softball, UW women's basketball, UW women's hockey. We love it. So all of those things, and obviously passionate M's fans, passionate Hawks fans, and passionate Kraken and Sounders fans. So really, from our perspective, those two things meshed really well.
So, you heard it from Jen herself, but this will be our home for all of these events, whether it's you can't make it to these games at home, we're always going to direct you to Rough and Tumble, and obviously the games on the road as well. All these, we're talking about the rain, they've got their schedule out finally, but this will be our home for that.
Great.
The storm games on the road, this is our home.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
I love it.
And when I mentioned it to Jen, when I first had this idea come up, I had this idea come up wearing a pink wig.
Yes, you did.
Ahead of Megan Rapinoe's final regular season home game for the Reign this past year.
Yeah.
I told her it's because I wanted this to feel genuine.
Yep.
I wanted a connection to feel genuine, and it does. So that's what this is. Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, and I'm so excited to finally announce this partnership.
I can't wait.